you've seen before. I should take this like that. This is just some of the papers that I've written about children's environments. So before we talk about children's environments, I think it's important to talk about children's play. Because if we're designing for people, and one of the philosophies in our department, and I hope in yours, is that very strongly we're not designing for us as the designers, the landscape architects, the architects. We are designing spaces and places for the people who are going to use them. And that's very important. Now, in order to do that, we need to understand what those people want and what they need. Sometimes they don't know what they need and what is best for them. If you talk to somebody, and this is, we can talk about working with communities and community involvement, but if you ask people what they want or need, they only know what they've experienced or perhaps seen on holiday or on photos or TV. They don't necessarily know the best things. It's a big issue in our country with our playgrounds, because everybody thinks that the way we've been doing them, and you'll see in a bit what they're like, is good, but it isn't. So, in your 2s and 3s, just take a minute to talk about where you played as a child. If we had longer, we'd do a big exercise on this, but just in 2s or 3s, talk to each other about where did you play as a child? And then I'm going to pick on a few of you to tell me. I don't want to stop the conversation now you've started, and we could spend ages doing this because we can get you to draw it and write stories about it and tell us about the quality of the spaces that you played in. But would a few people just like to tell me something about where they played and what the space was like?
Street edges, the pavement, and leftover area after the floor.
So street edges and leftover spaces, yeah? Okay. Was that in a rural or an urban area?
Urban area, but with very minimal vehicle traffic.
Okay.
Within the colony.
So a lot of vehicle, or not
restricted.
Restricted, okay. Anybody else? Say? Sand. Okay. Was that in whereabouts? Urban, okay. Anybody else?
Courtyard between 2 houses.
Courtyard between 2 houses. And does that mean there were other children who lived in the courtyard that you could play with?
Actually, in my house, it was more than 200 years old house, and we shared a courtyard with other houses.
Okay.
And we used to play in that courtyard.
Okay, that sounds great. Did any of you go to parks or playgrounds to play?
I used to go to the ground. I used to go to
We made our own public space.
You made your own public space. So there were chairs with you. You used to go to...
I used to go to a ground, a cricket ground or an open field.
You played cricket? Yes? It's a cricket ground. Okay, I saw some children yesterday playing cricket just on a spare piece of land. And what was your park like?
We have around 2-3 parks in the 50-meter radius of my house.
Oh, wow.
And there's yet another park, like 5 minutes walking from my house, which has what about 12 and stuff.
Okay.
So
So was it a playground in the park, or was it the whole park you played in?
It was park, playground and park.
Okay.
Yeah.
What lots of parks close to? That's okay. Okay. So I just want us to, you might want to hold those in your mind as we think about what's happened in our country and some of the ways that we provided for play. But we're just going to talk a little bit about play itself, about what play is like and the character of play, because I think this helps us in trying to understand what children might need in outdoor spaces. Okay, so the character of play. There are lots of people who've written things about play, right from Plato onwards. Okay, so play can be fun, and sort of I think we imagine that play is usually a fun thing. It can be serious as well, because a child might be having a serious day about something, and I think we need to be aware that play can also be serious because the content of the play might be serious. And there's an area of play work, there are people in our country who actually sort of support children in play. There's an area of play work called play therapy, where it helps support children who have been through traumatic events of one kind or another. Now, what I'm going to tell you is at the end of yesterday, I went to visit the SOS Children's Village in Bhopal, which was set up after the disaster here. And it was a bit dark when I got there, unfortunately, but they were playing on the ground, and that's, it's one of the things that I'm sure helps them in those situations, whatever the background is that they've come from to that orphanage. And some of you will know that I've done a bit of research in the post-disaster area in Japan, and we met some children, but we weren't too intrusive, but even the stories the adults were telling us, and some of the play workers were saying that the children in the adventure playgrounds were playing tsunami playground, were putting water down the slides at one point in time, and it all helps children to deal with issues like post-traumatic distress. But other people have tried to explain what play is. Adults mainly try and explain what play is. So talk about the main characteristic of play is not its content but its mode, that it's an approach to action, it isn't the actual form of activity that's important. It can be described as scientific research conducted by children. And this is right, because children put water into bottles and mix potions and make them around. Did you do that as children at all? I know my kids did. And you leave a potion for a few days to see how gungy and horrid it goes. And in a way, this is scientific experimentation. But what we then seem to do in our country is we lose that as we go through the education system, and we don't understand that that could be a good way to learn. Some have talked about play being the imitation of adults' activities as a way of bringing children closer to the adult world and helping them to construct their own identity, separate from the parents or other adults. So when children are very young, their identity is very closely tied up with the mother, because that's who they've come from, and with their parents, and the family, and then community. And so some feel that play helps children to understand those bigger concepts of what being an adult might be about. Play has got lots of benefits for children. It can help them to enjoy freedom, exercise choice and control over their actions. Sometimes children's lives are very controlled by adults and they don't have choice. It can help them to test boundaries. So if you think of climbing up a piece of climbing equipment, there's one landscape architect in Copenhagen who says that actually it's good not to have those steps all the same, because it's just very predictable. Children learn more if the steps are different heights, which the European regulations for play equipment doesn't allow for. But she says that's better for them. And obviously play offers a wide range of physical, social and intellectual experiences. So we also know that the benefits of play are not just at the time, but they develop in children over time, which can help to foster independence and self-esteem, respect for others, opportunities for social interaction, supporting well-being, healthy growth and development. It can increase knowledge and understanding of the environment and of how to react with people and how scientific things might react. And it can promote creativity and capacity to learn. So there are many benefits for children at the time of play and any time. And if we flip that over, it's obvious really that children who are deprived of play are at a disadvantage. And some of the evidence shows that they have poorer ability in motor tasks. Do you know what motor tasks are? There are fine motor tasks, which is sort of the use of hands like this. The fine motor tasks allow us to write, the notes you're writing. The gross motor tasks are the ones that allow us to run and move in a bigger way. So, deprivation of play means poor ability in motor tasks. Obviously, lower levels of physical activity. Poor ability to assess and manage risk. Poorer social skills that can lead to difficulties in negotiating social situations, and a poorer ability to deal with those stressful or traumatic events that we've talked about already. There are scientists, brain scientists, who increasingly have been looking at play as well, and say that there is new scientific research that suggests that a radically deprived environment for playing in could cause damage. So a brain can expand physically and it can contract and change depending on the experience. And I think that is something that we're not fully aware of, and I think it's something to hold and dwell on. It's very, very important. There is more recent discussion about play being also about creating the ability for children to develop emotions as well, and learning about fear and safety. So a whole range of issues that children who are deprived of play may suffer from. So the benefits of play are not just for the individual child, but they can also be for families and communities. There's evidence that shows that play can help reduce antisocial behaviour. I suppose the theory is that if you have played with children and learned to negotiate and develop some social skills, you are less likely to be antisocial and do antisocial behaviour. However we define that, and we can spend time discussing it, that you're more likely not to be antisocial. It can be a focus for informal networks. It can contribute in developing adults who are creative and effective socially and economically. And I think this creative thing is something that schools often, our education system sort of seems to think we must pass this test and that test, and we look upon Asia as very well educated. I think the results of particular test came out this week that showed, I don't know, was it South Korea or Singapore or somewhere is top of the world for its educational entertainment. I think those are only on science and technology actually. And sometimes our country looks to the east and says, oh, our education system should be like that. And then we have people who go, no, you take all the play, you take all the creativity out of the system, and that is not good for children. Because being a member of society is more than just being an economic person, it's about all these other aspects as well. Play can also offer opportunities for cultural identity and difference, and sometimes that's important in these post-disaster situations. Some of the literature that we've been looking at has been saying that actually cultural reference in play after disaster situations and crisis situations helps children regain their sense of identity and who they are. And it can be a focus for tackling social exclusion through community development. So in our country there are play workers who sometimes run after-school clubs or holiday play clubs, and that is particularly targeted at children who might be dropping out of the education system or who might be feeling excluded for whatever reasons. So within our country there's been a large amount of lobbying going on in the last 15 to 20 years about play, and various documents have been produced. And one of them is this document that talks about children's natural propensity to play has been impaired, it's reduced by the loss of suitable public space, the impact of technology, and this is 16 years ago. I mean, the impact of technology is even more now. You know, kids everywhere are on phone. Actually, there's also some literature that's saying it means some children are being allowed out more because the parents know where they are and can communicate with them. I suppose the child might ignore that. If that's a text or a call from them to say, come home now, they might ignore it. But it gives some sense of security, and I think we need to be careful on it. I'm not a very techie person, you've probably read, but I think even I and others, we need to be cautious that we're not just critical of technology. It has benefits as well. Television, concerns about the television as children spending too much time on television started in the 1960s when Robin Moore did some work in our country saying, oh, children are spending too much time in front of television. And I'm sure it's the amount of time has gone up. Personal computer, car, changing attitude of society towards children, all of these things, but also as an increase in parental anxiety about child safety. I don't know if that's the case in your country, whether parents are concerned about child safety. In our country, there's this misperception that we'll come on to, that parents have great fears about children being outdoors. I'm aware of some of the issues in China. I don't know what the issues are here. And in a very mixed city, I don't know if different parents might have different fears anyway. So, United Nations is an organisation you're all aware of, and they sometimes make declarations and statements and conventions which are international statements that then individual countries might sign up to. So there is an international Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. Article 31 talks about children's right to play.